So, Berto, we have some emails here that are sent to us for us to respond to. What do you say?
Let's do it.
This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist, and I'm also a professor.
My name is Humberto Castañeda, and I grow six-legged spiders.
So, annual anonymous patron, she wrote in and says, I have an email about dating a man with kids. She says, I'd love your perspective on this relationship dynamic. I'm 36 and have been, so this is a bit of a long email, but I think it's worth getting into entirely. I'm 36 and I have been dating my boyfriend, who is 38, for about a year. He has 2 young kids, 7 and 4, and he is divorced about 1.5 years ago. Overall, he is a caring and supportive partner. He shows up when I express needs. He includes me in his social life, and he says he wants a future with me. So they've been together for how long now? About a year. Okay.
Yeah.
However, he has not introduced me to his kids, and he keeps that part of his life completely separate. He says he wants to, quote unquote, protect his kids from getting attached in case the relationship doesn't work out with me. At the same time, he brings his kids around to our mutual friends, which makes me feel excluded and confused about where I stand. The dynamic with his ex is also complicated. She cheated on him during the marriage and is now living with this man that she cheated with. This man has never met my boyfriend, even though he is living full-time with the kids. This man has never met my boyfriend, even though he is living full-time with his kids.
Wow.
Okay. So it sounds like her boyfriend's ex-wife, so she cheats and then
marries the guy.
And then after the relationship ends, then, continues the relationship with the guy. It's no longer an affair.
And the kids live with them.
And It sounds like they fast-tracked their relationship because they're living together at this point, right? Yeah. And so when the kids go to her house, then they're naturally going to meet him, right? And so she, this ex-wife probably thinks of him as more of like a permanent fixture.
Well, no, I'm understanding even more that the kids live with the ex-wife and therefore are basically full-time with this other person, but the other person hasn't even met this girl's boyfriend, this gal's boyfriend.
Yeah, we'll get into the debate about this, but the emailer here doesn't live with the father.
Correct.
Anyway. This man has never met my boyfriend, even though he is living full-time with. So that's another detail, is just like ex-husband and new guy have never met face-to-face. And I wonder.
I mean, obviously the antipathy is because of the cheating, but you need to put the kids ahead of that.
Right. Commonly, in order to, at the very least, show good behavior or what do I say, cooperative behavior to the kids, you just want to show that your two dads are on the same page on some level, But it's not completely necessary at all times. It's not like they couldn't parent without ever talking to each other, So there's no accusation here in this email that there's any bad parenting going on. So who knows? But anyway, generally speaking, though, you'd want to go. But it's common to, one, not have a relationship between those two men, or to hate each other, and just never try to have a good working relationship. Anyway, I have offered to meet with his ex-wife because I think it is the right thing to do if his kids are in the picture. So emailer's like, look, if I'm going to hang out with the kids as kind of like a stepmom, I would want to meet with the kid's actual mom because I don't know, it just feels like if I were in her shoes, I would want to meet me. And anyway, and yet my husband doesn't. I think that's what emailer's saying. It's like my husband hasn't demanded to meet with a father figure in his own kids' lives. He does. My boyfriend of 1 year, he does not like that idea of me meeting his ex-wife. And I think partly because he is really hurt that he has not met this man. He does not like that idea. And I think partly because he is really hurt that he's hurt that he hasn't met the other guy. Anyway, I also find it really inappropriate on her side, the ex-wife, that she has not made that happen for the kids, meaning that the new stepdad has met the dad. In the dynamic, I think the kids will eventually understand what happened and will be the ones that suffer. My boyfriend tends to be avoidant. He struggles to make proactive decisions and often delays big steps in the relationship, even though he expresses that he wants them, quote unquote, eventually. Recently, his father passed away, and I've noticed him becoming more emotionally withdrawn, which I understand, but it's adding to my feeling of insecurity. Because of immigration issues, he cannot leave the country and therefore was not able to see his father before he passed.
Oh.
My questions are, how can I distinguish between healthy caution as a parent and avoidant behavior that may keep the relationship stuck? Okay, so let's focus on the questions here first. How can she distinguish between healthy caution from her boyfriend and avoidant behavior that may keep the relationship stuck, meaning they'll always be stuck in the, if we say there's the dating phase and then there's the serious girlfriend phase and then there's the serious girlfriend who meets your kids phase, they seem to be in the serious girlfriend phase and they might be stuck there forever. How does she distinguish between that, Berto?
So I prepared a question here for this occasion. Question 1, did this person have such lack of clarity in the situation that they had to write in to a podcast? Yes or no? Okay, well, that answers the question. So in my opinion, it's been a year. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that by law, by 1 year, you better meet those kids. Now, I do think it's been a long time, and I do find it odd and frustrating, third person frustrated here, that they haven't been introduced. I totally get the idea of like, hey, I'm dating right now. I'm not going to have my kids. I'm not going to walk a parade of dates to introduce them to my kids. But it's been a year. Okay, number 1. Number 2, it's not only that it's been a year, there's obviously no plan. There's been no discussion of when it would happen or under what circumstances. And that's why this person is writing in. So because of all that, I'm like, no, this isn't just like natural, a concern for the welfare of the kids. This is something more than that, in my opinion, right? So therefore, I think it's right to suspect that I don't know if it's because they're avoidant or whatever, but I think that this isn't super healthy from my perspective. I think that at the very least, there should be some conversation of, hey, if we've been together for a year, your kids are your kids. I've never met them. Now, I understand why maybe that is, but is there a plan for us? Like, what do you think? Like, that conversation is necessary. And depending on the answers, if the answers are like, I don't know, we'll see, maybe. Yeah, that means that there's something missing there.
Yeah. Well, so my answer to this, I guess, will be predictable, but I will say the following. And this is kind of from a clinical perspective, but I think it also is generating from my own personal cultural vibe of this whole thing. That there are 2 things happening. I think one is that given your description, I don't see anything abnormal about it. That's what I'll say. There's nothing that screams like, oh my God, there's a big problem. It's been a year, but another consideration is he's only been divorced for 1.5 years or separated for, so this isn't like 10 years from now. He is, in my book, in early recovery from a difficult divorce. It sounds like he was cheated on. Sounds like this probably wasn't his choice, the whole scenario. And comparing his timeline to his ex-wife isn't necessarily fair because, she's a different person, but also she apparently left the marriage a long fucking time ago because she was having affairs.
Right.
So for him, this could be quite a blow. And given his avoidant nature, right, that makes sense. But the second thing has to do with what Berto was getting at as well, which is communication and having those kind of conversations. Yes, you as the writer in or anonymous annual patron, I would identify what your needs are. I'm implying your needs, but don't let me put needs in your soul. You really want to dig down deep because often these discussions completely ignore needs, which is really what everyone is talking about. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like, but don't let me define this for you, that you have a need for security, that you want to know if he's serious about you. If you're going to invest all this time and it sounds like you want to have this relationship progress and be forever, or at least you want to take it to the next level, then that's okay. That's your need. and focusing on that rather than, well, is the timeline happening exactly as it is? Because, you know, in a very weird universe, I suppose, you could have that security locked in, and he could tell you that locked in, and you could still not see the kids, and that might actually meet your needs.
Right.
Now, you don't have a relationship with these kids, so it's not like the kids were taken away from you and you need them back. So, you know, to you, you don't have an attachment to them. So really, the kids could just be a proxy for that. Now, it makes sense that you also want to get this thing moving, and you'd love to get to know his kids. And
remember that their mutual friends see the kids.
Yeah, but that's different, right? Because for boyfriend, introducing or just continuing to have relationships with Uncle Mike, who is your friend, pre and post divorce, that's neither here nor there. But to introduce to, now, could that be facilitated maybe? Like, hey, this is anti-anonymous patron. And you don't tell the kids that you're, you know, dating and that sort of, I don't know. Yeah, but it's certainly culturally strange, but if anything, I would wish that people would err on this side than what they almost always fucking do when they introduce their kids on date 2 or date fucking 1.
Sure.
And they do it with dozens of dates, which is the fucking norm culturally. So when something is so far from that, it feels so weird that we immediately say something's up there. Now, there's also a possibility that, you know, if we just think about the relationship, that he is in no place, and rationally so, to make any kind of decision about long-term feelings or commitment. And if that's the case, then he needs to buck up and tell you that. And then you just have to deal with what that means to you.
Yep.
But he might not feel that's possible, or he might not dig down deep, or he might avoid thinking about it, or whatever. But allowance for that has to be in place, because I'm guessing for anonymous patron, whenever she talks about this with friends, they react the way Berto did, which is just like, what the fuck is going on with this guy? But, you know, who's going to listen to the two of your needs? And maybe they're incompatible. You know, maybe for him, he's like, look, at this point, I wouldn't put a lot of faith that I'm going to ever be in a place where I want to marry or commit of any sort, which could mean that you literally never meet my kids until they're adults or something.
Yeah.
Like, there's a chance that he's in that space, and that's okay. He just has to dig down deep, figure that out, and tell you about it.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's more flexible. It probably is. And again, he has to do. So you have a question here about how do you communicate? Well, it's a conversation. Go to couple therapy. That's my short answer. But the longer one is that you approach him in a way that, because when you're approaching avoidantly attached people, unfortunately, you can do everything perfect and they could still just like not show up emotionally or conversationally, which is fucking annoying. Believe me. So you've got to go on a campaign often. You can't just have a few conversations. You've got to like take it on the chin that you're going to get a lot of weird fucking avoidance and non-answers and people shutting down, because even if you're super nice and you're just like, look, I'm not pressuring you. I'm just, and you give all the caveats, they could still just be like, I don't understand. I thought we talked about this. So, if this relationship matters to you, which it sounds like it does, you go on a campaign, and this generalizes to your whole relationship, because this is not, if you do end up in a relationship with him, this is not the first time you're going to have to deal with something like this.
Not the last time. Yes.
Yeah, not the last time. Sorry. I sympathize with you, and you go on a campaign and you have all the caveats, and you're trying to manage someone's unconscious anxiety that kicks in that they aren't even aware of because they're fucking avoidant.
Right.
And so you have to word things in a way, and you have to caveat with like, I'm not here to attack you, and I'm just curious how you feel. And baseline, they could be afraid of even just looking at their feelings. And you can't caveat that away, right? Because that's between them and their emotions. So, it's hard. Now, if I were your friend, though, I would say, hey, and enjoy it. Once you start having the kids around, maybe often, that introduces a whole other level. Now, maybe you're digging, maybe you're really, but a lot of people wish they could go back to before times when you didn't have to deal with even your own kids, let alone stepkids that are influenced by, biological mom and stepdad. And, you're in the beginning times and there's no rush and you're in love and you enjoy each other's company, like there's no rush.
But if I'm guessing, well, you're right that it might be that they actually really love kids and stuff. But if I'm guessing, this has got more to do with what it symbolizes. Right. Yeah.
Right. And that you can ask for. Yeah. That you can say, never mind about your kids. That's I would love to meet your kids, and that's your choice. You're the dad.
Yeah. What
I'm looking for is reassurance, and of course your intention on eventually having me meet the kids shows that, if you, boyfriend, said, no, you're never meeting my kids, then I would interpret that as maybe this isn't going to last very long. And it sounds like he has told you that, anonymous patron, because you quote him as saying eventually. It just sounds like he just avoids the whole thing. And like I said, given the trauma of being cheated on and dumped, it is hard. And so there's a chance that he's just like, look, I can't, I don't, even if I did love you to the point where I could commit forever to you, I'm not going to let myself, because I'll be damned if I'm going to open myself up especially at this early phase.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it. I was dating and you and I met, and I didn't know if I'd meet anyone else. And I did meet you, and, and I love it, but I'm not ready to think about even a year from now, and I don't know if my heart is going to be consistent. I don't know where, and that sucks, especially if you're on the more preoccupied side, or even if you're not. And then you just have to make a decision for yourself if that's a deal breaker. All right, let's take a break. What do you say, Berto?
Let's do it.
All right, back from the break. Middle tier patron Nicole. She says the H is silent.
Nice.
Nichole? Hello, Dr. Kirk and Humberto. In May of last year, I made a dance mom friend. This is another long email, so it'll challenge my dyslexia. In May of last year, I made a dance mom friend. We hit it off immediately. Berto, what's a dance mom friend?
Dance mom. So you have your kid in dance classes, and you take them to the dance classes. While you're at the dance classes, there are other parents there. And you notice that there's someone maybe around your age that looks just about as interested. Maybe their kid is about the same age. So you strike up a conversation and you become a dance mom friend.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
I pick up dance moms all the time.
Yeah. I don't want to ask any questions to get any more elaboration on that. Thank you. Going on. But I realized that when I realized that we had some major differences, but then I realized after years, I listened to your pod and doing some reading, she seems to show some Butler covert narcissistic behavior. So middle tier patron Nicole, with the H being silent, she's saying that this dance mom friend, has Butler syndrome, as we talk about in the podcast with
What's
Bob.
Butler syndrome?
So this is, in a nutshell, due to early trauma, often it's physical, emotional abuse. You learn that you don't matter, and you have a hard time knowing who you are even. And as a way to have attachments, whether it's friends or partnerships, you turn yourself into a butler that you're 100%, 24/7 focused on your partner and what they need and what they want. And your only purpose in life is to please them and make them happy.
Ooh, I've had pseudo butler behaviors with some of my friendships, right?
Yeah.
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 Maybe not.
I mean, I would say
butler,
so there's pleasers, right? And there's putting yourself in the back burner. And then there's Butler syndrome, which is, the covert narcissistic thing. I've talked about that with Bob in previous episodes. It's kind of complicated, but
butler. I thought you said butt lover. Never mind.
Going on. For example, if we were to spend 4 hours together, 3.75 of those hours would be spent on her talking poorly about how her kid goes unnoticed at the dance studio our kids attend. Oh, I see. So a lot of time we spend talking poorly about how our kids goes unnoticed. So maybe by the teachers or something. She was so fun and she was so fun and even she was sweet, but she would say awful things about people and justify it with her victimization. Okay, just tell me. I don't know if I would call this Butler syndrome precisely, as we define it with Bob, but I think the covert narcissism thing might fit. Anyway, going on. I believe her experiences, but I started to catch on to the fact that she was using this to control my experience at the studio as well as to who I befriended. I always left our hangouts feeling drained and manipulated, and that I couldn't be honest about my experiences. We had a few moments where I was direct with her, and she completely lied to me about our interactions. Okay, so if I'm reading between the lines a little bit, I think what she's saying is like, okay, on the surface, she's really nice and sweet. But then when you get close to her, she starts talking endless shit about everyone else and constantly feels like she's the victim. And she's using her kid as sort of the proxy for that, sort of like Munchausen narcissism. Yeah. and also that when she hangs out with her, she feels drained and manipulated afterwards. Yeah. Okay.
I have definitely known people like this. There's one in particular that they're no longer right now in my life. That haven't been for years, but someone that was married to a friend of mine and was extremely fun to hang out with, except that over time I would notice, wow, they speak poorly about everyone. They have a horrible story to tell about everyone who's not in the room right now. And there was always like this, they're always the victim. Everything is always being done to them, and everyone else is a terrible person. But we right now, the listeners are in the club, but I have a feeling that if I leave the club temporarily, I'm probably one of those people that are not. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating thing about friendships or even partnerships, I suppose, that like with you and Stacy, two of the closest people to me, you never talk shit about anyone. Stacy and you never talk shit about anybody, like weirdly so. Sometimes I'll talk shit and you and Stacy will be like, well, I don't know. Or you'll just not participate. Most people aren't like that. I would like to think I'm not a shit talker. I'm above average in the good zone, I would say. But you and Stacy are like, you have a disorder or something. I don't know what's going on with you. But the side effect is I'm pretty sure you don't talk shit about me when I'm not around.
You're the only one I talk shit about.
And so it provides this security, this trust, right? That it's just like, I know that you got my back, and you look on the bright side. Now, do you and Stacy also let too much wash off your back, or do you put yourself in the back burner? Yeah, but I also know that you and Stacy are happy people that live. You're not like Bob, where you're putting yourself on the back burner to that extent.
Well, and look, I have a relative who I love this relative dearly, 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 and this relative talks trash constantly about everyone. It's a little different than the other situation I was talking about, but it is not too different because every time I talk to them, there is some new horrible story that is happening with someone in the family. It's usually someone else in the family. And I'm always like, oh, really? They said that? Oh, and it's kind of uncanny how and this happens to this person constantly. And I'm like, wait, they did that? That sounds terrible. And these are people that I know. And I'm always like, really? And it might all be true. It might all be accurate, but it is really interesting that it's like she is what do you call it? A siphon or a magnet for these kinds of situations. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that is one angle. Another is that everything's just filtered through that, and they need it to be true or something along those lines. I don't know, but yeah, I think that another aspect to this is with you and Stacy. I think there's a bit of looking the other way sometimes. So the one minor con, which I would say is about this, is that when the rare moments when I'm just like, okay, like I'm not crazy, right? Like this person in our life is doing this thing, and I'll go to the two of you, and you'll just be like, huh?
Yeah.
Just, you wouldn't have even we'll be in the same room together.
Yeah.
And like 3 bullet points will occur and they will be so obvious that I'll log them. Then I'll go to you and you'll be like, I didn't see that.
Right.
And I'm just like, how did you not see that? And I think that so that is, it's happened enough times that I think it's a bit of a con in that you have a filter that you like purposely or unconsciously purposely like filter out things that would create negativity. Now, maybe that's an overall good thing. I don't know.
No, it is a survival technique, but you're right. I mean, as you know, it has affected me negatively in times where, at the very least, when things were directed negatively at me, and I was sort of like, well, you know, if I look at it the other way. And it took a lot and your help in some cases to be like, okay, that's not good.
Right.
Yeah. So I could totally see that it definitely, well, and for me, in the way I grew up and the situations I dealt with, that was a really useful technique, because what I would hear all around me is people bad mouthing the system, other family members, other people, right? Like anywhere from my dad bad mouthing my mom, or at the very least my mom's husband, all the time, right? And other people bad mouthing other family members, my dad bad mouthing everyone on TV and everyone in the system and stuff. And so, yeah, maybe for me, it was, I developed a thing where it's like, well, I don't want to spend my energy doing that, I guess. And the downside of going that direction is that it works great in general for what it does. And I can be blind, or maybe even not necessarily blind, but I can be inert or not take action when I should take action sometimes.
Yeah. I don't think I ever thought about it till now, but I think the key is if you have healthy relationships around you, good people around you, then it doesn't create a problem if you don't see the few bad things around you, right? It only becomes a problem is if you have a lot of bad things around you,
right,
and you don't notice them or note them.
When it's over,
but when I think about your life and Stacy's life, I can't think of any relationship where I'm just like, oh my God, they are ignoring this glaring problem. Now, maybe that's me, it's the thing, because I'm the common denominator here, and like, maybe it's like, well, the only reason why the two of you are close to me is because you overlook all my stupid shit, I don't know. That's the question, if your two closest people in your life are the nicest people in the world, what does that say about you? Anyway, I don't think that's true.
Well, okay. So, two things that happened to me as I was growing up, and actually, my dear friend Ron, rest in peace. I slowly over the years learned something from him, because we'd go out to a restaurant or a place or wherever, and he was the kind of person that when something wasn't right, he would bring it up very directly, not rudely, just very directly. But to me, it always felt stressful and confrontational, and why does it matter? Just, yeah, the soup was cold, or yeah, they didn't bring you the right appetizer. It doesn't matter. Let's just move on with our lives. He never stood for anything like that. And again, it wasn't like he was some hard ass that was like always complaining. No, he just, this is what I ordered. This is not what is, this soup was bad. This thing was and okay. And I also have a relative, my aunt Tia Mari, whom you've met in Colombia, and she is my mom's younger sister. And I actually now have a saying. It's like, what would Tia Mari do? And I use that in my life, because she doesn't put up with things that she shouldn't put up with. And I've always known that about her. And as an example, a few years ago, I was in Colombia and my passport had expired, my Colombian passport. And they weren't going to let me out of the country without an up-to-date passport. Well, as you may or may not imagine, renewing your passport in Colombia is not straightforward. If I hadn't had Tia Mari on my corner, not accepting no's for answers, I would still be stuck in Colombia right now. And it's just awesome to watch her. She's never rude. She's never like, she's not cheating. But she goes up to people and she says, here's what the situation is. We need help with this. And when they say no, she goes to the other person and she tries. And sometimes it doesn't work, but a lot of times it does, because of that attitude of like, I'm not going to sit here and just pass out and die. that is something that as I'm getting older, I'm getting a little bit of that. But man, it's been hard for me because my default is like, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because with Stacy, she has a similar issue. And when push does come to shove, and I generally don't say much in situations like that either, but I'm much more prone to do so, far more prone to do so than Stacy is, and maybe you.
Yeah.
I'm generally just not bothered by, well, should I say that? When I'm bothered by something, I'm really bothered by it, but generally speaking, I don't really get bothered by that. I don't know if my wife would agree with that statement now that I said it out loud. But anyway, to the point where Stacy will, if I know that I'm going to have to talk to someone about something, like a contractor or something, I purposely don't have Stacy there with me because I think the anxiety is so great that she has to like run interference.
Sure.
And I would like to think that at least half the time there's no interference necessary because the person I'm talking to is fine with the feedback. You know what I mean? Like they might even want the feedback, but the feedback mechanism is so anxiety provoking. Now, I should absolutely say that if she were here, my wife, she would say, well, you know, Kirk, you do need interference because you know, like just as an example, we love this one French bakery downtown Belltown called Parisienne, and they recently renovated. But anyway, that's not the point. They we go there all the time, and there's one time we went there, and right away I noticed that the music was different and louder. Usually they always play French music. They probably some French Pandora or something, you know. And you know, it's quiet enough and the songs are pleasant enough. You know, there's a certain Frère Jacques. And so, but this time we went in and it was super fucking loud, like beyond loud.
Really?
And it was this, it was like a terrible, like live version of this song. It wasn't opera, but it was like an opera kind of guy or something. Okay. And it was, I don't know what it is about music in restaurants and stuff, but when it's off, like I can't think straight.
Yeah, it's not the it's not the right ambiance.
But most people can think straight. Like my wife, apparently she can think straight, but my wife also doesn't even notice music half the time. I'll hear there'll be the sound, the Pandora will be playing and I can barely hear it. I'll hear half of a second of a drum beat and I'll be like, oh, that's Madonna, or I'll like, I don't need to hear much and I'll be like, oh, that's funny or I'll compliment some people on their, it's like, oh, you had a great Pandora mix today or something. You know, you played the Strokes and, you know, and so, you know, I'm hyper fixated to some extent on it. But anyway, so we're sitting down and I'm so fucking bothered because it was so loud. And I just declared loudly that I started mocking the song in the middle of this French bakery. I was just like, whoa, whoa. And my, you know, I was being a bit of a dick, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm also like, well, if you're going to be a dick by playing music that's fucking obnoxiously loud, then I have the right to just also play along with that, right? You know what I mean?
And then they're like, this is my late grandfather's song.
I don't give a fuck. I don't care. It's not necessary.
He did it as an homage to the war and all the victims.
You know, if you had a pile of shit in the middle of the bakery and someone said pew, that's okay, right? And I consider sound pollution to absolutely be on that level. You know what I mean? And Stacy's like, you know, kicking me under the like, stop it, you know, and I'm just like, my God, that music, because I'm literally hoping one of the busboys will hear me and like turn it the fuck down.
So you're being passive aggressive.
Well, yes, absolutely. Yeah. But I'm also so like unnerved by it. You know, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, eventually I think I literally told someone, I was like, can you turn down the music? I have no problem doing that to people, by the way.
Right.
Because I guarantee there are other people in the restaurant that are, because no one's like, you know what? I wish the music was louder. No one ever says that, right?
I wish the music. You know what? I have gotten like I said in my older years, I've gotten very comfortable doing things. Now, one thing I've always been very actually able to do, even when I was a teenager, is if there's a clear moment of injustice, like I don't mind stepping in. I want to step in, but I'm talking about with things that are lower stakes. I was always like avoidant. Nowadays, like just the other day, we're in the theater. There is a young couple, a guy and a gal. They're watching the movie, and during the previews, they're talking pretty loudly. They're laughing. Okay, no problem. Movie starts. Movie kind of gets quiet. They're still doing it. I give it 30 seconds because they did not realize the movie's starting, and it was during the movie with the space one, the recent one the football thing.
Hail Mary.
Hail Mary, yeah, Project Hail Mary. And I'm like, so I look over. I'm like, hey, keep it down, please. Okay. But they could have reacted negatively, right?
Well, that's good, yeah.
I would have never done that.
Yeah.
Right? So I've gotten like that because, again, I think in my mind either what would Ron do or what would Tiamati do, right? But it definitely is a kind of thing where for most of my life I'd be like, ugh, I'm so annoyed right now, but I'm not going to do anything about it.
Did I tell you about the guy sitting behind me at The Wiz when we saw that musical?
When we saw The Wiz?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
So I took you to The Wiz for your birthday.
Right.
The musical that Michael Jackson and Diane, what's her
Warwick
name?
or Warren?
Anyway, who cares? Point is that we're sitting there and
Diana Ross.
Yeah, and in the behind me, this guy was repeatedly kicking my chair.
Oh,
hard, just like a nervous habit of tapping his foot.
Oh, that's so annoying.
And I'm thinking, and was it tapping? My body was moving.
Oh boy!
Like I with every foot movement that he was doing on the back, because these are really old theater seats.
I thought you were rhythmically moving to the.
I think he was actually going to the beat.
Oh God!
Now that I think about it, and I was, my whole body was swaying with it about half the time that he's doing it. And at first, I'm like, we're about halfway through. This isn't going to work, And so I'm like, this is going to stop. Obviously, people have sense to know that they shouldn't be kicking the chair in front of them. Like people understand that, right? It continues. Oh and God. So I'm like, okay, this is going to ruin my experience.
Yeah.
So
that's all you're going to be able to think about.
So I'm gonna do step one, which is I'm gonna look over my shoulder, like I'm like, what's happening to my seat? You know that move?
Yep.
Where you're like, oh, what's going on with my seat back there? And then oh shit, he's probably looking at his seat because I'm doing. Okay, I'm not gonna. That didn't stop it in the least. Then
doesn't take a hint.
Then I look with more of an angle. Instead of just glancing over my shoulder, I really kind of turn around. He keeps going. And then I keep escalating this. I like really look another time, and then I like kind of sit up a little bit and I look down. Eventually, I'm not even joking, Berto. I turn around and grab his foot. I didn't grab, but I put my hand on his foot and I sort of pushed it away, because this is after 45 minutes of me doing various different things.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm pretty easygoing. Like when this sort of stuff happens to Stacy, it kind of drives her nuts. Okay. I guess this doesn't really fit the model that I was saying, but when we're in a movie theater and there's someone like making noise, it'll kind of get under her skin. Whereas to me, I'm just like,
but will she say something?
Not in the moment. No. But for me, I tend to just say, well, it's just kind of how you look at it. Yeah. If you're like, well, I'm in public, and so people are going to do stuff. Or another thing that I try to do is I say, what if this was my grandma?
Right.
That was doing this. I would sort of say, well, just grandma, and it's not because having someone tap their foot on my chair isn't like they're smacking me across the head. You know what I mean? So. There's ways of looking at it. So this is after a long time of me doing that kind of trickery and all this different signal. Eventually, I'm putting my hand on his foot and gently sort of pushing it away from the chair. And I'm looking at him in the eye.
And he's what age? Like
he's elderly.
Okay.
I don't know how elderly.
So you're abusing an elderly man. Oh my God.
Maybe 65, 70.
Breaking his leg.
And that didn't stop it, Berto.
Oh no.
No.
What?
So then you think,
oh no,
what's going on here?
Maybe it's something not quite working.
Or he's hostile.
It could be, yeah.
He didn't look like he had a tremor, if that's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's
Plus,
what
if
I'm
you have a
saying.
tremor, like, you don't have to put your foot directly on the back of my chair.
But
You know what I
maybe
mean?
he was trying to
And I
help
want to
you.
emphasize, I was swaying. My whole body was
He was
going
getting you into it.
back and
I like
forth. Anyway.
But okay, so
But when we left the theater, I never said anything about it.
Okay.
You know, because it doesn't really get to me. Like,
Okay.
as soon as we were done, it was over, and we had a good time. In that moment, I didn't go like, "Oh my God, you wouldn't believe what happened to me," because it's just like,
so that's the kind of thing that I always saw Ron immediately. Like, this happened multiple times in theaters where he'd be like, "Can you please stop that?" Like, very directly. And at the time, I was always mortified. I'm like, and not even because you would think it's like in this culture, like, what if they have a gun? It wasn't even that. My brain didn't even get to that step. It was like, why are you saying anything? Just, you live with the life you're handed. You keep quiet. That's it. Whereas, yeah, nowadays I just don't. The worst one that happened to me in the last few years, which I actually do recognize was a little too risky the way I handled it. I told you about this. I think, at a Depeche Mode concert. And look, I'm not one of these people that films the whole thing.
You told us whole story in the podcast.
So the abbreviated version, I'm not one of these people that films the whole thing. But I had my phone out. All of a sudden, I see from behind me, someone reaches in with their phone and shines their flashlight in my eyes, which I immediately assume is that, oh shit, someone I know is right behind me. Because who else would do such an aggressive? So I think it's like you or something. I'm like, it's not someone I know. So then the rest of the concert, I decide I'm not going to let this detract. So I enjoy the concert and nothing else happens for the rest of the concert. But as soon as the concert is done and the lights come out, I turn around and I yell at this person. I'm like, what the fuck is your problem? Now, unfortunately, initially I yelled at the wrong person because he's like, I don't know, it's this guy. And so then I look at that guy. I'm like, what is the problem? And the guy was super aggressive. He was maybe my age, a little older he looked, but not much older. And my wife is trying to calm me down, which I think is the right thing for her to do. Because again, you don't know in this culture what the guy's going to do. But then what happens is the guy's girlfriend starts saying stuff, and then my wife starts going in. So now the whole thing is kind of becoming a mess. And then eventually it died down. But it's one of those things where in my previous life, I would have just not said anything, and now I think in that case maybe I was too aggressive and all that.
Well, so you kind of did. You kind of had you can tell me that I'm full of shit or barking up the wrong tree, but with the story that you told about the He-Man movie thing, you had a similar story beat where you were saying, okay, I was getting a little riled up, but then I said, hey, I'm going to let it go.
Right.
And then I let it go, and I was fine. Yeah. And then as soon as the movie was over, I fucking exploded on it. Right. So obviously you weren't letting it go.
Right, that's true.
You know, and so being like Ron might be the answer because you're saying something
in the moment
quicker than letting it build.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
Anyway, getting back to the email. So she's saying this, dance mom was sweet, but then talks endless shit and always makes herself out to be the victim. And after hanging out, patron feels Nicole, but you keep the H silent, which is really confusing. I mean, why have the H to begin with?
Yeah, Humberto.
You feel drained, manipulated. All right. A lot of things took place that led to my decision to break up with her. But the kicker was that my daughter and her daughter weren't becoming as close as she wanted. And my daughter was spending time with a variety of other kids, including kids she hated, by the way. I continued to spend time with her because I really felt there was no way for me to distance myself. So just chiming in. I'm guessing it's just like, well, we're stuck here on the sidelines of dance class. And if I just don't sit with her, that would be so weird and awkward.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Which I get, which is why you should never become dance moms until you get to know them well enough to know that they're not crazy. Anyway. My small daughter had a birthday, and my friend did not acknowledge it for the second year in a row. Oh my God. So this dance mom relationship is going on for a long time. After over a year of supporting her and her child, both emotionally and physically, I decided that she wasn't the friend for me. So I just stopped reaching out. But my problem is I want to be honest and direct with her about why I don't want to be friends, because I feel that's what she deserves. Chiming in, I'm guessing what she means by deserves is like she deserves the truth and not the disrespect of me just blowing off. Yeah. Instead of she deserves to be told off. I don't think she be.
No, that's not what.
I just know, based on our experience, that she will not own her behavior or validate my experience. Do you think it's necessary to reach out? If so, how would you do it? End of email. Yeah. So what she's saying is like, I feel like it's dishonest or disrespectful to just drift away or make an excuse. But if I told her, she's just, given how she talks to other people about other people, she's only going to narrativize this as I'm an asshole.
Right.
And, so what's the point in telling her the truth if she's just going to distort what I tell her, no matter how diplomatic I am? So, Berto, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a tough one. So I am of two minds. One, having been the jerk who in high school ghosted one of my girlfriends who I had been dating for a summer and then stopped taking their calls and never gave a reason. And I was that person, and how horrible that was, and how
I see what you're saying. Right.
Yeah.
So you're saying what it's like to just...
I know what it's like to be the person who's just like ghosts someone else and then runs into them a year later and is having to confront just what a big jerk I was and what a wimp and how I didn't have the balls to just be like, hi, I don't want to date you anymore, and it sucks and it's painful, but I'm going to let you know that, right? So that at least there's some closure rather than, why are my calls not being answered, right? Okay. Well, that's one side. The other side, though, is what to say and how, right? Because it is painful to say something meaning if someone tells me, hey, and I'm being very direct with you so that you don't wonder why I didn't return your calls. You're a bad person to hang out with, and your personality sucks, and blah blah. Like when I was a teen in Colombia before I moved up here, one day this one girl in the class who I was friends with says to me, why can't you have a personality like this other guy? And she didn't mean, why can't your personality be like this other guy's personality? She was saying that I didn't have a personality. And I was like... Which
I just have to say, was she deaf and blind?
Right. But...
Because of all the negative qualities, having a personality...
I think what probably was meant was that the things I was into didn't interest her at all, and I was probably boring to her. Who knows? But what I will say... is that
I can't imagine you being boring to anyone. I can imagine someone not liking you. I can imagine someone not being into the things you're into.
Right.
I can never imagine anyone saying you were boring.
Right. But it hurt. Right? It hurt to hear that.
Yeah.
Right? So I know. So
right. So she could have, even if that was true, in quotes for her, she could have easily worded that like, well, what do you think would have been?
Well, okay. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's like, so I'm going to invent right now the situation where I actually don't want to spend more time with someone else, not even romantically, just like maybe a friend. And I know that there are reasons that are there that I'm really frustrated about, but that if I said them as directly as possible, they will be hurtful, right? So maybe what I would choose to do would be to say something where it is half and half, where I say, hey, I feel that in some ways we've been drifting apart, and then put a little bit on me. It's like, maybe it's me. I'm going through this, that, the other thing. At the same time, I also did not appreciate that you did this, that, and the other thing, right? And having a conversation like that is still going to be difficult and painful, and also could open the door for them to be like, wait, I didn't realize that. Hold on, I still want this friendship. Can we talk about this, right? But I think that that's better than both. I'm not even going to tell them anything, or I'm just going to tell them how horrible of a person they are. Like, I feel like there's an in-between, and I'm not great at it, but I would like to do it.
I think that's the point that I want to make, is that there's no way to be good at it because you're in a bad situation because someone's being an asshole.
Yeah.
So it's not your fault if you're like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Or whatever you do, that there would be some negative consequence, like you would hurt their feelings, or you're kind of forced to lie. Or not forced, but, you know, of the lesser evils, you choose to essentially lie by omission or something, or just straight up lie.
Right.
And it's unfair to put blame on the person or to hold them up to some sort of, you know, it'd be like if someone, you know, in an extreme example, someone has a gun to your head and says, I need you to say something positive about me or else.
Right.
And you lie and you say, oh, I love your cologne. Even
The way you hold a gun.
Yeah. And you hate their cologne.
Right.
You're lying to that person, but under the circumstances, it's like, well, you know, they got a gun to your head. Yeah. And to a much lesser extent, but on that spectrum is when you have a friend, so to speak, who is toxic and is constantly talking shit about everyone else and will talk shit about you and is probably talking shit about you.
Yeah.
And is creating all this toxicity and is, you know, making you feel manipulated and also treating you horribly. Forgets your kid's birthday 2 years in a row, just completely disregards the whole thing. You're being treated horribly. And, you know, we also know that this person came from trauma.
Right.
So, you know, it's not their fault, but, you know, you're not their therapist. And so whatever you do, it's worth considering. And just know that none of them are going to feel like that. And often people will privilege being honest because we learn in kindergarten you're supposed to be honest. And yes, that's true. But that has its own complications. So what I will say to you, Nicole, without an H being pronounced, is the following. This is what I would do. And again, you know, I'm not telling you this is what you're supposed to do, but this is what I would drift away and not say anything about the truth about the matter. Why? It sounds like you're stuck with this person being in your life. It's, you know, typically dance classes last years, right? This has already lasted a couple years. You're probably going to see her. You're going to bump into her. If you just flat out, or even just tell her a version of the diplomatic truth, given how toxic this woman is, God knows what she would end up doing. She could target you with all sorts of shit. She could start making shit up about you. She could hurt your kid or something. She could turn people against you. At the very least, she could just be super hostile when you meet up with her. Who knows? Now, this is my style, and I'm a little bit avoidant with this sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like with the music in my favorite French bakery, I'm not, you know, I want that I really like it when we go to that French bakery. I'm protected. If it was a random McDonald's, I would be less worried because I'm like, well, I'll just never come back to this McDonald's, I guess, because their Pandora station sucks. Mm-hmm. But Stacy and I love this French bakery. And so if something's off, it's just like, no, like, don't do this. Like, This needs to stop. And so, you know, in those situations, I'm going to say something, but in most situations, I don't say shit. I don't reach behind me. I mean, that, again, reaching behind, normally, like when we saw Mandalorian and Grogu, there was someone behind me that kept kicking my chair. And I did the thing where I sort of looked behind me a little bit, but after a while, I just stopped. I just was like, I'll just deal with it, you know? Which I just have to say, people, understand that the seat in front of you is connected to the person sitting in that fucking chair.
The more you know.
It's not like kicking the chair and it's like a wall, right? Like you kick a wall, if someone's sitting on the other side of that wall, they're, you know, not
They're still going to feel it, by the way.
Well, they might, but, you know, it's especially theater chairs, they rock back and forth.
Yeah.
Every ounce of, you know, pressure you put on, anyway. So,
absolutely.
So I don't normally do anything. And in a situation like this, I would also avoid. But I would conclude in a calm way that this was the best thing really for everyone, including the other person. Because as you said, Nicole, that you don't pronounce the H, this isn't going to get through to her. You know, what's the chance, given her issues, that she's going to go, oh, you know what? I'm going to do some real soul searching. No, it's not likely. It's probably just going to be she's probably done this to dozens, hundreds of people, and you doing it, you telling her the truth is just going to be another example of that. in all likelihood.
I guess it depends. I see what you're saying. To me, it depends on the nature of the relationship, because when I think of the situation that I was in years ago that you are aware of with someone that I was collaborating with, I don't believe that what I should have done, I don't think it would have worked well to like cancel the appointment, not say why, and then sort of like pretend like we were not gonna meet up again or something. Like, just that wouldn't have worked with that dynamic, right? Like, so I would have had to say something.
But that was different because he was a very close, years and years and years long friend.
Right.
This is basically kind of an acquaintance that she sees at the dance mom situation. You know what I mean? So now, having said that, you said an interesting phrase. You said, I don't think it would have worked well.
Yeah.
Well, I know this situation forwards and backwards because I was there during all the things, and I can tell you that there was no easy answer to that question. And if you did just kind of drift away and not, because, we ended up telling him.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't done that, would the outcome have been any different? Really? I guess for anyone.
Potentially. But personally, I actually liked that I was able to say what was wrong for me.
Yeah. But also, you weren't having to see him
that's true
all the time. Like,
that's true. That it wasn't a thing where it's like, and then we awkwardly still have to see each other every day for some other reason. Yeah.
Now, we did see each other often, and anyway. Yeah. But I want to give you an analogy situation where, and I've talked about this in the podcast before, but I think it bears worth repeating, that I went to work at the university for like 4 hours, and so I left home. You remember the house I lived in with in Lake City, Seattle. Anyway, have I told you this story before?
Maybe, but
anyway. So I left to work to go to the university, and 4 hours I come back home. When I got back home at like noon or something, the neighbors that lived on the other side, they're on the other side of the
tree.
Fence. Yeah, I pull up, and they have cut every branch off of the tree from about like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 feet down. And this was I loved this cedar tree, and it had these sweeping branches that were touching the ground. A lot of cedar trees don't necessarily do that. And I bought this house half because of the trees. Oof. I love trees. I grew up among trees. I climbed trees. Yeah. I am a tree hugger. And in Seattle, it's kind of hard to find a house that has a lot of trees. My current house I live in is surrounded by tall ass trees, Yep. And I love that. And so when I pull up to the house and they've cut all these branches off the trees, I'm like, what did you, it felt like, jeez. I don't know, like, because that can't be undone. No. You can't just reattach in. No. And so,
such
and
it's violation.
It's not even going to grow back because trees don't do that with their lower branches anyway. So I'm like, what? So I get out of my car and I'm like, what's going on? And they explained to me that for the last couple months, they've noticed that someone has been stealing food out of their outdoor fridge that's on their back porch. But, whatever. And I get that. That would be distressing. And this is before everyone had like cameras and stuff. Yeah. And so they would notice stuff would be gone in the morning. And I get that's pretty stressful. And they were really trying to. It turns out that the culprit was sleeping in my tree. Uh-huh. He had a little campsite in a sense. He had like a blanket or something. And from clues, I think he would sleep there at night, and during the day he would walk somewhere to panhandle or something.
So instead of them telling you this and you handling it in some way.
Right. So they wanted to eliminate his hiding spot. And to be very clear, it was very clear that this tree was on my property. It was in my property.
That's unbelievable.
They had a fence that defined their property, and my tree was on, several feet into my property. Yeah. Anyway. And so as they explained it to me, I'm thinking, like, why wouldn't you wait for me?
Right.
And two, what gives you the fucking right to do this. And
unbelievable.
of all the, like, there's so many other solutions to this problem. And believe me, if you had told me, I would have taken care of it. He was sleeping in
your tree,
in my yard,
in your yard.
I had a vagrant sleeping in my yard. That would freak the fuck out of me.
And think about the irony of what they were trying to solve. They were feeling invaded.
Yeah.
Their solution was?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, in a split second, I, started down a road in my mind of, addressing it in some kind of direct way, being honest, being truthful.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the right.
Yeah.
They committed a crime. There's probably like a misdemeanor here somewhere or something, And I saw the road before me, I could see the alternative universes branching off.
Yeah.
And then I said, none of that is going to result in a happier version of me in the future, because I'm going to be living next to a neighbor that I am going to be at war with in some, or at least bad blood. Every time I see them when I drive, every time I see them over the fence, there's going to be known bad blood, or there's one other Doctor Strange direction where we can save the universe. And I said, that is for me to say, thank you so much for taking care of this, because nothing's bringing back these branches. And there's no legal result from this that's going to feel satisfying. And there probably isn't really a legal result anyway. Like, what do I take him small claims for a tree? There's probably like no recourse. I don't know. But I lied and said, thanks for doing that. I'm sorry that happened. And they looked at me, and we were friends. And every time I saw them, I had this streak of like, you fucking, but I never felt uncomfortable around them. I never felt daggers coming out, or I suspected daggers coming, because that's the other thing. It's like, even if they are nice to you, it's like, well, are they secretly? Because there are many universes in the future, and the one that is the happiest me, and I was completely happy, a week later, a month later, today, I don't look back and say, oh, I wish I would have blasted them. No, I want to be comfortable in my life. So for you, Nicole, when you're this is just me, take it or leave it, that I would say, I want to feel comfortable with my kid at this dance class. I want to be comfortable. I want to be comfortable running into her. I want to be comfortable when we're all in a circle talking. I want to be comfortable when I'm driving to dance class. I want to be comfortable when I'm sitting in dance class. I want to be comfortable when we both get invited to the same birthday party. I personally want to be comfortable, and I want my kid to be comfortable. There is one path toward that, and that is to not be honest about it, Because even if you had a sit down with her, you predict, Nicole, and given your description, it seems likely as happened, that even if you went to therapy for like even a couple years with this woman, in all likelihood, it would not end well, and she would be bitter. And there'd be this huge risk. And even if nothing bad happened, you'd always wonder what's going to happen? Whereas if you just ghost in a sense, and you're not a dick about it, but you're just like, you just slowly start edging yourself away. And that might mean you have to stay kind of friends for a while while you're acting. And then, and again, for the listeners, they may be like, Kirk, I thought you were all about honesty. When someone crosses a line, like someone's got a gun to your head, then to me, that the lying or the deception is completely justified in my mind. This is far from that. But you have a jerk face that is a jerk and makes you feel drained, and is manipulative and talks endless shit about other people, is like really negative. To me, that person crossed the line, and therefore self-preservation takes a higher priority than dignity or truth or giving them the quote unquote respect. Now, the other side of it, additionally, is that if you were to be respectfully truthful to her, is she a better version a year from now because of that? Whereas if you deceive her by slowly drifting away, which version of her a year from now is better off? In all likelihood, the slowly drifting away version of her is better off. She's slightly happier as a person because she just transfers her attachment. She starts bitching about everyone else to someone else. You know what I mean? So that's my thoughts on that.
So what would you do, although you wouldn't know in this scenario? Imagine I use my DeLorean to show up right as you're going back into your house. You don't see the DeLorean because you're like seeing red and you're pissed. So you go in the house. I show up and I walk calmly up to them and I say, hey, can I talk to you guys for a second? I am Kirk's friend, your neighbor, and I just want you to know that although he just said thank you, this tree meant a lot to him. It was very special. He grew up in a place that had a lot of trees. This symbolizes his childhood, his family home, and he actually really appreciated how these branches were. Now, of course, he would have been horrified to find out that someone was using his precious tree in his yard as home, and it would have been really amazing if you had come to him with that information, and he would have absolutely taken care of it, maybe in the same way as you did. But understand that you have done something that's very hurtful, and it wasn't to something that you own. So that's all I wanted you to know. So to do what you will with that information. And then I would have pieced out in my DeLorean.
Well, and nice for you that you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess the reason I'm saying that is because how the hell are you in that moment supposed to have that wisdom and Yoda-ness to have such a conversation that might still result in a bad interaction, right?
Right.
I'm doing it because I'm the third-party observer who has the benefit of hindsight and sort of omniscience and personal peace. But I wish I could do that in general.
Yeah. And in that scenario, maybe it's a little different because I didn't know the neighbors well enough to know for sure if that would backfire automatically. Right. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate your point, and your role playing was exactly what I tend to role play when I'm reacting to reality TV. I'll say like, there's a mature, differentiated way to be assertive, and it's not a matter of slinking away or being hostile. There's another way, and you exhibited that perfectly. And as you were saying it, I was like, yeah, I mean that could have worked, but I don't care about my relationship with those neighbors,
Right.
Whereas you cared about your relationship with the guy that we were talking about.
Right.
So if you could change him and your relationship, it was worth the
There's
effort.
less to preserve in the other case, yeah.
Whereas with my neighbors, I had no friendship with them. They were neighbors that I would wave to, and we had a good enough relationship. So if I didn't, because the hope response from them would be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I mean, what's done is done, right? I wouldn't want money or anything. I would just, but again, but if I had a relationship with them, I would want them to know that they hurt me, because there would be a consequence for both of us if they were friends of mine, because I wouldn't feel good about being friends with them moving forward, or there would always be a fly in the ointment.
Right.
With neighbors that I have no relationship with, what is the different future? There isn't a different future because I'm not friends with them. Maybe that's the key point, is like, it's not about lying or drifting away or confronting or even being extremely differentiated and very mature in the way that you role played it. One way of calculating a bad situation where there's no easy answer, and this is just me offering one metric or one decision-making flowchart, which is assess the options that you have available to you. And the two broadest are, you be at least somewhat honest and diplomatically honest with her, and you just say, hey, I don't want to be friends with you anymore because the way that you make me feel, or the way that you have not really been a good friend. For example, you did this, this, and this. So that's one, decision. The other one is to slowly kind of drift away. And then you ask yourself, okay, given each, what are the possible outcomes from there down the road? And make some guesses as the probability, right? And then you have an idea of a guide to follow, right? So if you tell her, Nicole, your friend, or this person that you don't want to be friends with him, right? If you are honest and you're extremely diplomatic and you exhibit, well, she is wanting to know how to work. So, Berto, how would you word this to this other woman?
I guess, yeah, okay. If I cared, if I had the glimmer of hope that this is a conversation worth having, because it's possible that after everything you've said, the listener would be like, actually, yeah, this is not worth my time. Okay, right. But assuming that there is that glimmer of like, yeah, this is worth my time, I guess what I would say is I would focus it on the very specific ways in which I have not felt well about the interaction. So I would say, listen, I need to talk to you. There's a couple of things really bothering me. One of them is, and maybe it's just my perception, but it feels like in a lot of our interactions revolve around you complaining about other people. And that's two things. One, it feels draining, honestly. And two, I always worry, like, wait, is this what you talk about to others about me? Like, is this just what you say about everyone? And then, that might get interrupted. That might even get derailed right there. But if I had the chance to say the second point, it would be, I also was quite hurt that you ignored or forgot or whatever my kid's birthday. Like we blah, 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 right? And that was painful to me. So I've honestly been thinking of maybe not spending as much time with you because of those things. And that's what I would do. If I could get that out.
You're good at this, Berto. I want to compliment you on that. Because my experience is most people, even when they're not emotionally attached, can't even come up with the words and the vibe that you just exhibited off the cuff, which is, I think...
It's taken me 51 years.
It's particular. Okay, so now, Berto, given what we know about the scenario, what are the likely outcomes? And remember, there's a pretty good chance that, let's say, once or twice a week for an hour and a half, she's going to be in the room with you. You know what I mean? And she's going to know your kids' friends and da-da-da-da-da. So what are the possible outcomes?
Yeah, the possible outcomes are, one, this is only received as confirmation of what she might have, the other person might have already been feeling, which is just like she has about a lot of people, complaints. And so then this turns into like, oh my God, you won't believe what this biatch said to me. And then passive aggressively, or even just like, fake wise being like, oh, hi, it's so good to see you. And then meanwhile, the person starts hearing all these rumors behind their back. Other people start treating her poorly, etc. So that's one possibility.
And is she better off, this other woman?
No. In that case, it's not. Right. There is a possibility, because we don't really know all the detail. I mean, there is one possibility, which is that at least with this relationship, the other person cares enough to try to address it in some way. That doesn't mean she'll be able to.
Right. And I think, that's interesting that you bring. I think that is a key distinction. And given the way that Nicole is talking about it, and I think given Nicole's understanding of personality, either innately or based on this podcast, because she's identifying specific data points that I think only psychologically minded, intelligent people could identify. Usually it's just like, I just think she's a jerker. But, Nicole's breaking it down by specific things, that the chance that this other woman, given this description, would even for a second entertain this as an opportunity for self-reflection and apologizing, or even just exploration, even if she doesn't initially agree, it doesn't seem very likely. So maybe that's another part of the flow chart.
Sure, yeah.
Of just like, because I think, with the guy that you confronted, or you wanted me there. You kind of forced me to be there when you confronted him, and I was just like, I don't want to be there. And you're like, you're coming with me, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And it was fine in the end, but I was, because you and him were really close friends, and I barely knew the two of you anyway. It was fine, and it ended up turning out okay because he apologized up and down. So that's the thing, is like, in that scenario, prior to talking with him about it, you probably on your flow chart knew, and it was right, that he would be willing to look at himself. in fact, he completely prostrated himself and said, "Oh my God, you're right, and please let me back."
Yeah.
And I'm like kicking you on the table, like, "Don't let him back." and then you said yes, and I was like, "Fuck," and I was like, "It's just a matter of time."
Yeah.
I didn't know that for sure, but
it was likely,
and it was, and literally like 2 or 3 months later, he started in on it again, and he immediately knew himself to pull himself out of the scenario. He didn't. You didn't have to confront him. Right. He's just like,
okay.
So I guess it's over now because I basically just broke the tenet that we. Anyway, but the relationship,
which actually is, in a way, it's a good turn of events, right? Because it's like, okay, we set a boundary.
Right.
The boundary was crossed. You realized it, and you left.
well, that's another interesting kind of prediction of the future. That if you hadn't been direct, then to this day, you might wonder, maybe I didn't give him a chance, right? Whereas you told him directly, he totally heard it. He dedicated himself to not doing it. He agreed with it.
Right.
And then he fucked it up. Yeah. So then by that point, you're like, well, certainly we know this is right, that we don't work together. Yeah. And we know this for sure. Because I was honest, and you agreed, and you tried, and you failed, and so
and
no one has any question.
At that point, I didn't even feel anger because honestly, mostly I felt sad. I was like, oh well, he tried, and I guess he can't.
Yeah, and I had bonded with him too by that point to some extent, and I remember feeling sad too. But anyway, so that would be another part of the equation, I suppose. It's interesting, to drill down on this because when I first read this email a while back, I thought, well, I have my answer, which is I would just drift away because similar to the people with my trees, it's just no one wins by me being honest with this person. But as we get into it, it's like there's all these caveats of like, well, it depends, right? Do you think that it's worth it? Because often, like I said, it often gets broken down to these really hard, I don't know, black and white ways of thinking. It's like, well, the good person would be honest, right?
Right.
But to me, it's more complicated than that because I think the good person takes the action where the most people disbenefit the greatest or disbenefit the least. Sorry.
Disbenefit the least.
That you think not only about yourself selfishly, but you also think about the other person and try to figure that all out.
Right. And I don't disagree with that generally. I think what it is as I've gone, and I'm not saying I do this well, but I want to, is that there is some gray zone where you can still potentially deliver tough messages to people that in cases where you feel it's even worth it.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's the equation. Yeah. If it's worth it, then it's worth it. Yeah. Then stand up and be differentiated, be mature, be honest. Right. But if it's not worth it, if no one's going to win, if you even think the other person isn't going to win by you being honest, then what's the point? Now, if you're married to the person, right, then that's, or if you're good friends, but this is kind of like, a dance mom friend, it kind of sounds like you're not hanging out with each other all the time. You know what I mean? You're bumping into him at dance class and you pass the time by being friends.
But I will say, so you're right, and I think that's right. I will say I wish that you could show up in the DeLorean at the Depeche Mode concert right near the end, before the lights turn on, or right as the lights are turning on. First of all, you hug me, hey man, what's up? Give me a second. And then you turn to the person. You're like, hey, listen, this is my friend Humberto.
Why is it me? Why isn't it you?
No, because we're helping each other.
But you're good at this.
But we're helping each other.
Okay.
And you're like, hey, normally I wouldn't do this, but we had this conversation about this other thing in a different timeline. So now I'm doing it, and I'm trying to do what he would have done.
And by the way, time travel is a thing.
It's a thing. This is my friend Humberto. And I just want you to know, he loves Depeche Mode. You love Depeche Mode. I love Depeche Mode. He wasn't filming the whole thing. But you did an aggressive thing. You shown your thing, and he's very upset about this.
Well, actually, you know what I would say?
Yeah.
It's interesting because you're sort of wording it in your perspective, and I guess you do need me in this situation.
Yeah, I do need you.
I would say to him, so, and somehow I kind of know the situation from you. So this is me knowing the information from your mind, actually.
Right.
Because I don't know what he went through. So I would say to him, from what you did to Berto, I'm guessing that the way he was filming was bothering you in some way. And
point.
believe me, I get that.
Right.
It fucking annoys me too. I don't see Berto as normally that sort of guy, but maybe he did. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, because I've been in your shoes before, that I let it go and I let it go and I let it go, and it builds and it builds and I get really angry, and then I explode with some extreme behavior. It sounds like something you did along those lines. So maybe the annoyance is okay, but you let it go on too long, and or you have a particular pet peeve about it or something. And I just want to say it was a total dick move. It's one thing for someone to film a concert and annoy people. It's another thing to put something in someone else's face. That's pretty violating. And then for the rest of the concert, he has to sit in front of you wondering what the fuck was going on with that guy and what's going on with him now and what did I do? And like, there were so many other ways. One, you could have just let it go. Two, you could have just tapped on his shoulder. Berto was a nice guy. He would have heard you. So I just want you to realize that you're a dick in this situation.
Right. And then what happens is he goes, who the fuck are you? And then I turn to you like, so you're siding with this asshole? And then a big brawl breaks. and then someone else has to show up in another DeLorean that is going to help us understand.
No, we need some sort of Depeche Mode lyric. Like, I'll be like, I'm going to be your personal Jesus.
It just takes a while to travel from my head to my fist.
Or... as I'm slapping across the face, I'll be, you just can't get enough. You just can't get enough. You just can't get enough.
But then what you could have said is, Berto, let it take a while to travel from your head to your fist.
Or what's another? What was I gave you a record today?
Yes, you did.
So
construction time again.
So Berto randomly texts. So if you're a Depeche Mode fan, this might. So. Berto randomly texts me in the middle of the night one night. He's like, I just figured it out. My favorite. We weren't talking about Depeche Mode. He's just like, I just figured out my favorite Depeche Mode album is Construction Time Again. Which, if you are a Depeche Mode fan, you kind of know that would be a weird revelation, particularly given our age. If we were older, maybe it would. But Construction Time Again would have been an album that you would have experienced after experiencing other albums that you had experienced that had come out closer to your time, right?
Yep.
You know, this would have been going back into their catalog, kind of a thing. And early Depeche Mode is different than, later 80s, and is more angular and raw, more punk in a way, depending. When you get to the Vince stuff, it gets a little more poppy, but it's just more. It's just anyway.
By this time, they're definitely darker. Yeah.
But anyway, Construction Time Again is one of the, for you to consider that to be your favorite DM album is one of the hipsteriest thing I've ever heard. I am always saying shit like that. I'm always like, the first two albums, REM, the first three albums, the best. The first Strokes albums, the best. The rest
you're insufferable. You're like, I'll say like, "Ooh, I like the Beatles." You're like, "I only like their Cavern days."
That's funny. That's the one band that no one would ever say. Like, no one would ever say, "I only like the early Beatles stuff."
That's a good point.
That's the one band you would never do that with. Probably like the Stones and stuff, as well.
Isn't that is actually hilarious, because that was before you would have had. Oh, I guess that's the only time that would have worked, is someone that's like, I liked them in the Cavern when they wore leather. They've sold out. Okay, that would have worked. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not feeling great about my take on this, because, and I'm gonna have to kind of wrestle with it. I've wrestled with it somewhat before, but hearing your response and actually just hearing myself essentially recommend lying to people, like, I don't like that at all. And I just wonder, like, what would Mr. Rogers do? And you got to figure that he would be honest, right, in a really super sweet way. But so maybe this is part of it. Maybe I am actually dealing from trauma, bad experiences where I was honest with people and it did backfire. And I was super cool about it, Like, I did think about it and think, I need to be honest with this person. And then I suffer. I end up being worse off, and I don't think the other person was better off because of it. Now, with friends like you and I, we've confronted each other, and also we've been at that crossroads. We've had many opportunities, and at times almost kind of did it, or at least temporarily did it, where we're like, I'm just gonna drift away. I'm not gonna address this, or I'm not gonna be honest with this person. I'm just going to slowly drift away. But because we're friends and we consider it important, then the decision is made easier, I suppose.
Right.
I mean, it's not easy to do, but it gives a clear guideline. But, with a dance mom friend, I just don't know. Like, it's sort of like, here's another example. Where was I recently? I was in a restaurant and the food had something really bad about it. And I had a choice. I could tell the waiter that, everything was off or something. So there's a number of different benefits that can come from me being honest. I guess the satisfaction of saying something, which wouldn't be that great for me. But so if this was a restaurant that I frequently went to, like the Parisienne, and they have the loud music, there's a benefit because in the future, maybe they'll listen to this feedback, and so I'll benefit if I give them that feedback.
Yeah.
They benefit because they know that they might be bothering other people,
right?
And I want to help
other people that might be too passive to say anything,
right? And so I want them to know that, that sort of thing. But let's say I'm never coming back to this restaurant ever again. I'm pretty sure of that. And let's say that also that I don't think that this is fixable. Right. It's not the sort of like it just has to do with the type of food they have or something like that. Or if I thought that the waiter wasn't going to be nice about it or something.
Right.
So do I be honest about, if they ask me, how was your food? Do I lie in quotes, but it's actually lying? Do I lie and say everything was fine?
Yeah.
Or am I honest? It's weird, and generally speaking, honesty is the thing to do. And in that situation, that's a pretty low stakes because you're just going to walk out anyway. You'd be like, actually, I didn't really like it. But I don't know, if I'm in a bad mood or I'm a little tired, do I want to deal with the kind of stress of having to have that conversation when all I have to do is say like it was fine and then walk out of the restaurant? I don't know. I certainly wouldn't fault someone for doing that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So I think, okay, so based on everything we've said, I'm going to model my own behavior, but I'm going to first tell you a brief story and then you'll see why I'm doing this. When I first started dating my now wife, we were in college and I was a freshman. She was a freshman in a different college. We didn't know each other that well to start with, of course, like one doesn't, right? But one starts talking and having all sorts of conversations. In one of those many conversations, I mentioned to her how much I loved John Denver, the musician, and how much I loved his music, how much it meant to me. And I told her that my favorite song when I was little, and I still loved it from him, was Rocky Mountain High. So for my birthday, which was only like probably a month after we had started dating, right? Because my birthday's January 28th and we had started dating in like December. So she gets me, she got me a couple of things. One of the things she gets me is she gets me sheet music for John Denver for Sunshine on My Shoulders.
Another classic.
A great song that I had not heard.
It's all about drugs.
So I'm
joking.
I get the gift and I look at it, I'm like, oh, it's John Denver. Sunshine on My Shoulders. And she goes, it's your song. And I lied. I was like, yes. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Because I knew how much it meant, right? And I actually was really touched that she even remembered it was John Denver.
Yeah, and given your wife and given what I know of the way that the two of you have described her back then, given that you've only been dating for a month,
right?
If this was now, then your relationship, you would trust that if you said, oh, like a way to be honest about it would be, oh my God, thank you so much, so thoughtful. Right. By the way, my favorite song is, but I also really love this one as well. Like that's the way to do it. But in that state, when a month in, you could understand someone going, totally. Oh shit, I don't know how do you get honest about something like that? And
it's a little awkward, right? It's
right. Because I think the equation is like, well, if I could download my mind into her mind and she could know for sure that I absolutely love her and appreciate this, and it's okay that she made a mistake about John Denver. So, and yet this is not my favorite song, but I love this gift. And, if I could transfer all those
she
thoughts,
would know that it's fine.
She'll be okay.
Right.
But even if I spend an hour explaining to her all of those things, trying to download my mind into her mind, I'm pretty sure she is going to not believe she is going to run in a direction that is going to cause so many problems. She's going to get down on herself. She's going to think that she's a bad gift giver.
She didn't listen. She didn't,
Or she's going to start accusing me that I'm lying. And no, I remember you said this other song. I distinctly remember Sunshine on My Soul. So again, I think this is this weird, there's got to be some philosophical school that deals with this kind of thing, because it has to do with morality, but it also has to do with goodness of life for yourself, but also for the other person. You're thinking, what's the best future for the two of us? And if lying, which is, we're just going to call it that, which is, I don't like using that word, but let's just use, if lying in this moment and saying, yes, this is my favorite song, if a month from now, a year from now, we're better off, then it doesn't matter. Guess lying is the right thing to do, which Mr. Rogers would never say, and I don't like this at all.
Well, so now what happened in that moment is, although I really tried to play it off, something about I wasn't acting well enough, and she could tell that something was a little off, and so she's like, "Wait, is this not the song? Is this not the?" And I felt kind of, I was like, oh, so I'm like, no, I love John Denver. I think this is I'm not familiar with this song, but I'm sure it's a, and so she did.
You weren't familiar with Sunshine?
I'd never heard it, no.
How could you be a John Denver song?
Because all I knew two of his songs, and they didn't include Sunshine on My Shoulders.
Oh.
Because the only reason I even knew him is because my mom had sent me a tape with songs. Anyways, but what I made clear to her, but in the moment it wasn't enough, is that, but this is so special. Okay, years went by, and I have since reaffirmed over and over how special that was. And even just the other day, I told her how defining that was. That I felt so seen by her in such a short amount of time, that the fact that the song was not the right, it didn't matter. In fact, I discovered a song that I now fully love.
Okay, so you know your wife. Even today, after being married, 27 years?
Yeah.
And you got married a while after that point. So you've been together for 34 years. Do you believe that she understands your mind at this point?
In that sense, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want you to keep everything in mind we just discussed when I tell you that the band, and I checked, that the album I mentioned was Some Great Reward.
No way. You're joking.
I'm doing this live on the air to model my behavior. and I came very close to letting it slide because
people don't understand what's happening right now. I gave Berto what I thought to be his favorite album, right?
Album,
so Berto is now telling me, and he's showing me the text exchange, because he was casually looking at that where. How funny is that?
And understand that when I opened it, I first saw, and I was like, oh, it's Depeche Mode. And then you said, it's your favorite album. And I saw, and I second guessed myself, because I was like, is that what I told? And then I looked at the back, and I'm like, and I was really like puzzled. But then I realized, well, like what I've said, if I could download my mind into his mind right now, he'd understand.
Well,
but what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell him,
I'm not fragile.
No, I know, but
we are not dating for a month.
I know, but I wanted you to know how special this really is to me. And that I've never actually owned a Depeche Mode vinyl, and that I, by the way, still love this album.
But I wish you would have known that I don't have the energy of a 19-year-old girl that you're dating, and I wouldn't be destroyed.
Well, this is why I'm modeling my own advice.
And plus, it's not a useless gift to you. It's still
no, absolutely. And but the reason I prefaced that with that story,
I would, even if you didn't say it, I would tell myself it's the thought that counts.
Right, exactly. But I was like,
how funny is that?
But as we were talking,
how funny is that?
As we were talking, dude, I decided in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I just can't let this go. Because
so this whole time you've been like, yeah, okay, Construction Time Again. Yeah, that is my favorite.
I love Construction Time Again. But I thought, what if time goes by and one day it comes out and I say it, and he's like, he checks the thing, and he's like, wait a minute, you lied to me.
Well, yeah, okay. Right? So that's another calculus, right? That if I am nice and I don't alert, there isn't a huge consequence. It's not like he's then therefore going to get a tattoo that says Berto loves Construction Time Again as his favorite album, and then he's going to have it laser removed later. like there's, right. But there is one bad outcome of not telling me the truth that you can identify, right. And that is if I came across it, I would know I was lied to.
Yeah.
And that would bother me.
Right.
And it would have bothered me. Right. Because now in the category of lies,
it's the kind where I'm like, I don't want to hurt his feelings.
I wouldn't. Yeah. But I do, and I guess this is another part of the philosophy that needs to be considered. Is like, but again, our context is different from Nicole, because Nicole wishes this person would fall off the face of the earth. I'm putting that, like if this person disappears, moves out of town, Nicole will either not care or be happy. Right. So that changes the scenario. But with us, yeah.
And this is a low
for sure. Understand, like right. You've given me gifts, and I've in the moment said, "Why are you giving me this?" Yes. and
the guitar pedal.
Yeah, which ironically I wish I had back, because I actually sold it or gave it away. But anyway, know that I know that we love each other enough that it wouldn't matter. And I also know that you don't spend that much time on gifts, because I could tell you just went to Guitar Center and just grabbed a bunch of shit.
Yeah, I didn't use
which is totally fine. Like I don't need people to like spend energy.
And actually, I don't remember if we discussed this at the time, but it was still remnants of my mother thing, right? Like, which is the main thing I need to do is spend money to prove that I care about something.
Interesting.
Right? And it was not, you know what? I'm going to think about what they're into. Like, that wasn't part of it. Right now, of course, I'm like, in the moment, shoot, well, they're into music, so I can go do this. And if I spend enough on a pedal, that will mean I love them, right?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it was the thought that counted,
right?
And it was felt as a friend thing. But I'm also, I don't know, the sort of person, and I know we're that. Maybe that is interesting, that with other people, other friends of mine, I don't know if I would have been honest in the least, but I was immediately honest with you about it. I was like, why are you getting me that? Because guitar pedals are really personal to someone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You mentioned that. I was like,
it was like, to get an overdrive pedal, like there are thousands of them.
And I was kind of taken aback because I'm so opposite to that. And to the fault.
Did I hurt your feelings? Yeah, you could be honest.
I'm trying to inhabit that moment, and what I felt was a mix, because part of it is like, how does he see through me so easily, right? Because I'm like, because I couldn't deny that you saw through the fact that this was an impulse last minute thing.
Yeah, and
I couldn't sit there and be like, are you kidding me? I did the research for months and this. No, so I was like, I was almost annoyed that I'm like, God damn it, how does he know me so well that he saw through me?
And to be clear, from my memory, I wasn't angry at you.
No.
I was just like, why would you give me this?
And you didn't say it in an angry way. Yeah. And at the same time, sure, I was like, but why can't he just say thank you? Right? Okay. Now,
I hope I said thank you. I mean,
you did. You
got me like 5 things.
But I'm saying, why can't you just say thank you?
Because you also got me a Beatles record.
Yeah, right.
That I still have.
Right. Well, but I'll remind you.
And by the way, this is, for the listeners, this is like 8 years ago.
Right.
And I remember because,
But remember that at the time, you actually were like vinyl, because at the time you weren't back into vinyl yet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But what the flip side of this whole thing is that, as an example, recently, I think it was for my birthday, my brother, I hope he's listening to this, I'll tell him in person. He got me a gift that I already had. And I didn't tell him that I already had it, because I just wanted him to have the satisfaction of the surprise. Right?
Can you share what it was? Was it a double-sided dildo?
No. It is a board game that Tall Rory had given me already.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell him. I just didn't want him to not have the satisfaction, because it was a thoughtful gift about something that I love, that there's no way he would have known that I didn't know that I already had it.
Right. I mean, I get the impulse.
Right.
Because it's neither here nor there.
Right.
And it doesn't really matter. But it does hurt to be the gift giver And to get, it's like, oh, you're nice. That's great. But I thought we were closer than that.
Right. And that's the part that I'm trying to model. And I'm telling myself, you know what? Just like I was telling you about, hey, there's maybe a different way. There is a different way. There's a way where I can trust that that I will never speak to you again because you got me there.
And this kind of relates in a way to when I am like, this is in the past, but I'd be like, are you almost here? And you'd be like, oh, I'm parking.
Right.
And you would arrive 45 minutes later. Right. I'm like, well, either it took you 45 minutes to park or you were lying to me.
And I was doing
you're trying to be nice.
I'm trying to be nice and not hurt but in the process being deceitful and annoying, right?
Right.
Yeah. So actually, that's great that we've brought this full circle because I think, as in most cases in psychology, the same trait can be both great and it can be bad.
Yeah.
Right. And you can loop around and become bad again, and you can loop around.
And there's different styles, but I think that I would like friends, especially really close friends like you, to tell me when I have a booger on my face or when I smell bad. Like with you, with your cologne, I told you I didn't like your cologne.
Right.
If you weren't close to me, I would never tell you anything.
Yeah.
I would just deal with it, or I'd stop inviting you over to my house or something. Right. But your cologne or the lotion you were using,
it was a hair thing or something.
Had the weirdest sort of, I don't know what kind of thing they had in it. It was like sandalwood or something.
It's rosemary and rice, fermented rice.
Fermented rice.
But it doesn't, to be fair, the fermented rice, the main thing you're smelling, I think, was chemically rosemary and chemicals.
Yeah, I would smell it 24 hours later in my office. And I will say that Stacy could not smell it. So
weird.
It could be something about me. Anyway.
Right.
The point is that I very quickly told you. I didn't wait a year or even a few weeks. Like the second time it happened, I'm like, and I did it, and I said it casually. I didn't wait until the end of the DM contract.
But I misunderstood.
I immediately told you, oh, you're wearing that cologne, and at that point I wasn't, and I'm still not. And I remember telling you, I don't mind the cologne. I just want you to know that it lingers a long time.
Well, but understand, like, what's funny is because of my being on more of the other side, my initial understanding and assumption is that you had been living with this for years. And so that's why I was so puzzled. I'm like, in my mind, I was like, well, wait a minute. Why are you just telling me?
Literally the second, maybe the third time.
Right.
And I hadn't, again, I wasn't waiting until the end of the Depeche Mode.
And it made sense.
I immediately just, and I wasn't even planning to say anything. It just popped in. I was like, because I hugged you and I could smell it up front. And
when I finally put it together, I was like, oh, this isn't a thing I've been wearing for years. This is this other thing that I just started doing, and that's what he's smelling. Yeah. Anyways, that's very.
And it wasn't an accusation.
No.
And I also was up to the possibility that I'm weird about my nose. Stacy can't smell it.
Right.
You would leave, and I'd be like, oh my God, and I'd pull Stacy in after you left, and I could smell it really strongly, and she'd be like, I don't smell a thing, and she has a, she doesn't have a weird nose.
Yeah, but we all have things that it smells and things that. One thing that was very interesting too, not super early, but fairly early in our relationship, me and my wife, I would be brutally honest with her when I thought something she was wearing didn't look great, and she was so unused to this that she took great offense or got hurt by it or whatever, right? Because I think she understood it as me putting her down or telling her that she doesn't look good or something. Whereas for me, I was trying to tell, because from my perspective, I was like, no, but remember yesterday when I said you looked amazing in this other thing? I'm just trying to give you real-time feedback. And yet, at the same time, this one time she told me indirectly that these red sweatpants I had, like she really didn't like the look or whatever, and I got so hurt. So it's weird how these things can happen for the same person, and you're fine doing it one way to one person, not doing it to other people. Then when it's done to you, you're hurt. But if it's not, right?
Well, now we're getting into sort of bro talk that has been going on for like 30 years that I remember, of like, if your wife asks you, do I look fat in these jeans? You say, no, they make you look amazing, even if they do make her look fat. And this is also related to it, right?
Yeah.
And, getting away from misogynist talk, another part of the flow chart is what is the possibility, or do you know that the person is sensitive about this?
Yeah.
And I think it kind of relates to what we're talking about with Sunshine on My Shoulder, which is that if you are so diplomatic, there's a chance that she could take it way harder than you could ever mollify, attenuate with telling her the full story.
Right.
And is everyone better off with this? Now, you also have to have that question mark of, is it worth her finding out that I did lie in this moment?
Yeah.
But there's also ways to avoid quote unquote lying, right?
Yeah.
Like you get the sheet music.
Like what you were saying. You were saying like, this is amazing. And so,
well,
yeah.
But even short of that, like you're like I don't recall you confirming that Construction Time Again is your favorite album.
That's true. I didn't say, yes, this is my favorite album.
Right. You were just like, oh my God, thank you so much.
And I pivoted to, do you realize, which is true, this is my first Depeche Mode vinyl I've ever owned.
Right. So,
which is true.
So when I would eventually learn that you weren't revealing to me the full truth, I wouldn't say, well, he just flat up lied to me.
Right.
I could easily say, well, he was just being really nice in the moment, and he didn't lie. You know what I mean? Having said that, I think, one of the things, this kind of relates to therapy a little bit at times, but we'll try to wrap it up because we're getting a little long in the episode. But one of the things that I would do with teenage clients to try to, I could tell them all day long that I wasn't a teacher and I wasn't a parent and I wasn't a cop. I had to somehow show them that way. And there are various different ways to do it. And I could self-disclose about something, like something about I smoked weed the other day or something, or I could swear a lot, or I could tell them that I shoplifted when I was young or whatever, just something that is showing rather than trying to convince. And I think that with friends or any kind of relationship, there are opportunities for that, where if you show that I'm honest with you, and I'm going to be spontaneously honest, and I'm not going to be afraid of being honest, and I value you enough to be honest. Like, you can say that to someone, but if you do it, then it says a lot, I think. And so telling someone they have a booger on their face, or saying, oh my God, thank you, it's so kind of you, you thought the counts, but just to let you know, dude, like you got it wrong, and I have the receipts. Isn't that funny? You have another gift you have to give me now. But thank you. You're a good friend, because, like, that demonstrates, a level of, I don't know.
I almost wish that in the same chat thread I would have said that Construction Time Again was my least favorite or something, but it's not. It's not.
They're adjacent, I think.
Yeah, it was. Some Great Reward was right after this, and I believe, and like I said, I also like this one, but it was just funny because actually initially I doubted myself. I was like, oh, maybe that is what I said, right? But a little bit, I looked at the songs and I'm like, I don't know if you remember, I said, Everything Counts is such a great song.
Right.
Right? So I was being a little psychopathic. This is true. A little Patrick Bateman.
No, I mean, no, you're just treating me like your wife after a month of dating.
I was treating you like a 19-year-old.
So listeners, I'm really curious what you think about this whole conversation, because I feel like I'm in like the early stages of deriving some kind of policy or something.
Of truth.
and so if you have insight into this, if there are philosophers out there that there's just got to be some sort of moral framework.
You just got to be stoic about it.
Yeah. And also if you have scenarios that can kind of flesh this out, like, well, I did this and then this happened, because I don't know how to think about this, because I typically say honesty is the way. And and most of the, and I still kind of contend this, that most of the time impulses to deceive are misguided and or a result of not having been modeled how to tell the truth without being a dick about it or something like that, you know? So, like with your wife who asks you, do I look fat in these jeans? There's a way to be honest about that and just say like, well, if you're asking me like objectively if other people would see you this way, then maybe, I don't know. but you're still super fucking hot. But you're still super fucking hot to me, you know? And also like you, and again, you're not going to solve all problems in that moment, but the overall vibe should be felt from you as a partner that you love them and you love them as they are and you're attracted to them and you don't value them on those metrics. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because if I were, and I've been in this situation at times, if I were to say, do I look older in this picture to my wife, you know,
right.
than a picture 15 years ago, and she was to be like, no,
you look younger.
You look the exact same. I'd be like, what the fuck?
Right.
Like,
I guess that's ultimately what I want, even though, as I've realized in my past, it's actually hard to hear. But what I want is more like, not so much, hey, like here's what I want. I want to be able to say, between these two shirts, which one do you think I could wear that or looks better or should wear at the party? And I want the answer to be that one rather than, I don't know, they both look great on you, right? Like I want that feedback. Now, that might have been harder to hear for me as I was younger, especially because I was more and more insecure, right? But that's what I want. And so I guess as I think about it, I would want to compassionately or empathetically also be able to provide feedback without being like, well, that one makes it look horrible. And this,
well, yeah,
you know,
I mean, just as one last point is the giving feedback to your wife about clothes. From my memory of us talking about it on and off the microphone, that is a way more complicated thing that's kind of riddled with a bit of sexism in there, if I remember, objectification.
We had an argument about it, yes.
Yeah, because it was a thing in your early relationship, and
yes,
it was a little controlling in a sense.
Well, that was your perspective.
Oh.
Yeah, there were aspects of the control that were related to it, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And then it was tangled in with the reality of like, oh, but I also want to be able to be honest and blah, blah. So yeah, it's complicated.
It wasn't just her presenting two shirts and you giving.
No, it wasn't.
It was.
It was also
unasked for advice.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So if listeners remember that conversation, they might be like, but you know.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I it's interesting to be in a philosophical field without a roadmap.
Yeah.
That because usually I kind of have some roadmap, and I'm like, and this is a pretty common thing and something that obviously I've thought about before. But as we sort of worked our way through it, I'm just like, I don't know if any of this, none of this feels good to me. But I don't know what
like
to do.
In a small way. I've had to practice this with my younger daughter because she writes songs. And what I want to do is, of course, I want to fully encourage her. At the same time, I don't want to just say that no matter what she says, does, writes, or whatever, my answer is always, that's amazing. That's the best thing I've ever heard. Because I know that it's going to start ringing untrue to her.
Yeah.
So I've had to practice how to totally focus on the amazing parts and add a thing. Like, have you thought of this? Or, you know what? I almost feel like you might need one more verse, or, you know, stuff like that. Or as Kirk always says, you're missing a bridge.
Yeah. For listeners out there, I'm not a big fan of bridges. Berto loves the middle eight. It makes me think of this moment with my mentor, Phil Cushman, who had really made me feel like I had the potential to be a good writer, something that I did not think of myself at the time. And he got me all kind of jazzed up on that, and I worked really hard on this one paper, and I got a little creative at the end, and I submitted it. And when he gave it back to me, I thought, you know, I didn't know what he was going to say, and he was a brilliant man, and so I figured it's probably not going to impress him very much.
Right.
But you know, I was really kind of like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And he was like, yeah, I'm unconvinced, he said.
I'm unconvinced.
And I was like, oh, but it was true. And he was right. And I remember it as a good thing, you know?
Right.
And it was on the foundation of a good mentorship. And it proved to me that if he ever does say something positive, that it probably is from the heart,
Right.
you know? So that kind of shit, you know, I think obviously matters. So, you know, so as I'm developing my flow chart, it's like what relationships and what people deserve your honesty, I guess.
Right.
And I'm sure I'm not the first person.
And the energy to do that. And
yeah. My neighbors, not that they were dicks and didn't deserve my honesty, but we certainly weren't friends. I didn't need them to know that I was an honest person. and we would never run. That was another part of the thing. I was like, we're never going to run into a situation like this again.
Yeah.
There's never going to be a situation where there's a vagrant sleeping in my yard that is stealing shit from their house and they're going to have to cut down part of my tree. Like, that's just never going to happen. So I don't need to set a precedent. I don't need to course correct because there's no course to correct. With Nicole's dance mom friend, to me, if I were in her shoes, I'd be like, I don't want to be in a relationship with this person, even if she does change. She's draining, and she's a drag to be around, and she's a bad friend. And I don't want to course correct with this person. I don't want to see this person ever again. Sure. There are better people to hang out with. I feel bad for her, but I'm not her therapist, and so I don't feel bad about just drifting away and saying I'm busy.
And maybe that's okay.
And to me, I think that's fine. To be honest is also fine. But anyway. All right. Well, that does it for that episode. I swear to God, I'm telling the truth about that. And everyone else and everyone out there, please take care of yourself because
you deserve it.